in the moment. What we have here is a guide who does the work while others sit back and watch the magic start to happen right before their eyes. Everyone wants to know, what is it like to do the work of a guide versus the work to get to that level of it? Am I embodied if I already feel beautiful in who I am? Or is that my ego, right? How many people are talking about the views of ego coming through in the vision of love? If we don't talk about that nature, others will start to demean the vision of what a life lived well. We don't want to die, do we? The nature of an ego is about telling ourselves, I am just fine wherever I am. I don't need to go through the process that others are going through. I don't need to die in my mind. That's what some people will keep saying, I'm dying. That's where others come through and say it can feel like a death. You wonder, who am I? That's the big question, right? Who am I? People are starting to see the power of guidance, the strength of soul, versus those visions of Almighty. I go to bat for every soul here, as well as for their highest visions in other realms. I travel many. I don't align with certain realms. And people will know what that feels like. When they go through that process, it will feel like a disconnect. But in our hearts, we do combine with each other. And we say, thank you for showing me who I am in my mind. Right? Most people assume we're all vibrating in one united vision. But that's the problem, is that in our hearts, we want to unite, right? Or is that the ego saying, I need to be right? Okay? That's usually where a lot of us go. I need to be right. How many people get their futures handed to them? And this isn't about reaffirming the vision that somehow, just because you're not getting your guidance, that your life is somehow less worthy or less beautiful or less magic. It's not like that, because you guys are always tapped into your hearts. But you do go through a process where you don't take anyone's BS. Let's put it that way, right? I honor those visions. I still get visions of people that I know, and their visions come to me from various realms of understanding. Depending on where you are in your understanding of guidance, if you went through that process and you had a hard time, you're going to try to protect people. That's usually where I go. I try to protect certain souls from the bombardment of the internet, right? The internet can affect all of our hearts, but I will not utilize it in a way to destroy their visions. See, this is the nature. When people go to that highest level of vision, you would know, I'm not here to tell you that your lives are anything less than beautiful. But what I can definitely tell you is it's like there's a better way to get to that beautiful place that everyone says that they want to go to, right? I want to go to the heavenly realms and vibrate in the beauty of my family tree, is where most people end up. However, you will decide then and there whether you want to keep creating with those souls, or if you do indeed want to branch out into different ideas about who you are. I don't just sit and wait for my family tree, do I? How long is that? We continually create with those visions of love, whether you want to believe it or not. Okay, so for me, I do get the vision of love of Jesus brought to me all the time in my mind. It's my own soul. Others will say that's an ego mindset, because if it's coming to the mind, It's not in the heart. People don't understand the nature of creating the vision of I gotta lighten my load. Okay, but if you're I'm embodied by my soul, so I'm connected. I don't have to feel the visions as others would if they were in a state of awareness in guidance mode, right? Guidance mode versus heavenly, mode. That's that nature of the vibration that I inhabit when I'm with my soul in many ways. Other times, my soul's granting me those visions that can be unpleasant so that I can wake up out of that nature of, I'm assuming a lot of people are having a hard time with some of the stuff that I'm putting out until you read it all and start to digest the information. It's not going to resonate with many. The strength of the Jewish settlers was so strong over the last few weeks, it was getting me pissed off. Let's put it that way. Beyond. Because I was thinking it was about the past. And I'm like, why are we creating in that vision? Right? I'm moving past that vision of I need to be in the past. I've healed all my hearts with my visions, my family trees. I'm done. I love you all. That's where we go, right? It doesn't mean we agree on every issue or any ideological ideas. That's fine. That's your vision. As a natural empath, right? Those visions of those souls that say, I'm going to go in, I'm going to blend with people. We don't have to do that anymore. I sometimes still get my hat handed to me by people who don't want to hear about that vision. That's it's like the nature of light, right? To come on and say, what is this going to be about? So what's going on in the moment? In the moment, we have destructive natures of international associations. How many people are going to the aid of the Jewish settlers versus how many are on the side of the Palestinians without even knowing what the heck has been going on behind the scenes? Now, how many people want to know what that vision is like? It's why I've been hearing from various factions in the media, right? I choose my media wisely. I go in depth. Most people, I can tell you right now, are getting surface level cracks. These are still surface level cracks in the vision of societal bonding. But I'm telling you, people, you want the real deal, you need to find different sources because your sources suck. Seriously, there is so little information there that is of historical significance. And most people should be cheering. I'm telling you, I've seen them all. I've gone to some of those, even the fringe, on the left and the right. There's very few websites that I would actually trust for the real deal at this point, based on what I'm getting and what happens, right? It's part of the nature of it. So it's not about saying don't go to the news media for your information. At some point, you might want to know what the people behind the scenes are actually producing in their visions. See, it doesn't matter what we say anymore. It's what's actually being created. That's what people start to clue in on. Okay, I say one thing, but behind the scenes, I'm really planting a seed for something else. That's what most people do. We tell people what they want to hear, right? I don't do that. I try not to. Sometimes I have that impulse because that was that natural beauty. It's like the beauty of who I was to say, let's give you a great show. But what if that show damages it's like the destructive vision of Jewish settlers, right? We're not talking about race yet, right? It's part of the healing that we're to do on this planet. I identify with my race. Okay. We're humans. That's the highest level, right? We're soul. But in essence, we're still in that, mode of becoming. Okay. And most people will start to cheer that on at some point because we get so tired of hearing about this race and this race, right? Or because it's not about demeaning those visions of beauty, but it's about saying, at what point does it become moot? Right? How many people are so aligned with their race that they can't get out of the vision that we're all human, having a human experience? That's where some people will go to the spiritual paradigms and say, my vision is that we're human. Most people don't align with the vision that we are all of soul. We just don't align with that. It doesn't ring true for us. So we go to that vision of I'm only human and I'm here to have a great time and I'm here to be, blessed by all those angels. Yet you can't grasp the idea that your latent abilities are still there to uncover. So we often look to the outer visions of love for that unconditional support and adoration to validate the beauty that we truly feel on the inside. What happens when you don't feel the beauty on the inside? You can get that vision from those outer dimensions, right? That's why people are still like, I've got to aim for certain ideas because I know that I have conflict with some of those other visions and it comes back to me. And that's what it's showing you. I'm not always in the vision of I appreciate religion and what it does for the people, but when we see it as part of the problem, it's understood. If you were to go into the future and bring it back, it doesn't mean it goes away. What we do is it alters the reality in which we operate. So for me, as a female, and I want to talk about this vision of God as a man, soul, right? Most people are not going to be comfortable with that vision. I'm not the only one. I was so thankful to find another woman who understood why we claim we're of source, because in the minds of many who've been conditioned that the male domination of the planet is still alive and well in the minds of those souls as well. We hear those ringings of domination on our hearts. It doesn't mean it's it's like it's part of the picture and the energy is beautiful. But for me, I don't want to reinforce that vision of male domination. Okay? And I'm not looking for the females to be rising up into some anti-male vision either. Okay? But that's why people will say, well, you're not in the mode of my savior either. That's okay. He had his moment. He still created. we all get our moments. Whether or not we're on the level of a savior vision or not is up to you. Okay, that's your own personal dynamic of I need to be saved from the vision of who I am here. Many people will rise out of that vision of I don't need to be saved. They're very much of the I'm going to reach for those higher levels of wisdom. In this moment here, it can kick your butt. Others would say, well, let's bring through the vision of Almighty Jesus, right? What does that mean to you versus me? Because to me, I don't put anyone in any other kind of vision of better than. It's not about not having the levels of understanding, but to say I am almighty, it sounds like there's a power dynamic going on in that vision. And that's usually what we project onto their hearts. Okay? Would I want to be seen as a king? Think carefully about the dominion of where we rise from. I needed to be strong enough to overthrow those kings and queens of the moment. So therefore, I rose into a different level of understanding, and I said the prayers that brought people to their feet, right? To their knees. And that's where I said, no, thank you. That dominion understands my heart, right? I am of slavery. I must lift myself up to that point of being of honor and worship to yet another soul who claims dominion. This is my domain. That's his soul. I rise into the beauty of who I am. I honor the visions of all souls. There are many masters there in that vibration of love. What I would say is that I operate with the vision of where we are here, with the conditioning of many that starts to spiral them up to a level of, I don't need to be on my knees, begging for mercy, asking for forgiveness, or claiming that someone else is king or queen over who I am as soul. I broke free from the mindset of slavery a long time ago. I do not put myself in any vision other than beauty as who I am. I honor all souls. That's the neighboring vision, is I have to be put in a place of less than because in their minds they were broken when they got here. Right? It's not about being broken. It's about being able to bring through the beauty of Jesus. If you need that vision, I can do that vision. What level of understanding do we rise to? You see, that's the nature. Many are looking for the value systems. Others want to be free from the conditioning of those souls who in that moment did the beauty that was needed at that time. And that's why we honor their hearts, honor their souls. Say thank you for getting us where we are. My own soul rises and touches the heavenly realms. That's where most people go. I go beyond to that vision of I don't need to just sit and wait for my family tree. I fly higher than that vision. I honor those visions and I say thank you for honoring me with your soul. How many people don't understand the nature of the words that we use and the power that they have to influence who we are in our minds? So if I am constantly telling myself I am less than somebody else at some other moment in time, does that actually lift me up? Am I saying I'm going to hang on someone else's coattails? I'm going to ride that ride, right? Versus I'm going to fly free and see where I land. That's the beauty of forgiveness as well. I don't have to sit there and say, I don't like you just because you don't agree with me. I can say, I get it. I get why you're trying to strive for the highest of the highs, right? No. Let me talk to the souls of souls who say, this is why I bring through those souls of the people here, to let them know they have a higher vision than who they are here. And those souls will rise to the occasion and say, I am all that and more. What we don't do is understand that that's the whole goal of the process. It's not about let me just join with one soul and pretend like I'm now better than anybody else, right? That's not the point. We're here to have fun, to enjoy life, to suffer. Sometimes we suffer with those visions that we place upon ourselves. This is not about everyone getting their cups of tea, right? Get a cup of tea, right? I used to love tea. It's no longer being served. Okay, that's the nature of many in Japan who are starting to also feel the pinch of certain things. Okay. We have these alliances with people that we were at war with. Therefore, we can deal those blows to Japan and still have that forgiveness brought to us. We are expecting the same kind of outcome in the Jewish settlements at some point. What we have to see is that vision of younger souls who are causing the havoc in the mindsets of the majority. This is why we're going to start creating that vision of younger does not mean smarter. Okay? My vision is I'm still young enough. My brain is not fully developed. And that is a proven fact. The science of the world will tell you the frontal lobe of the brain is not fully developed usually until 23 to 25. This is why we don't place those visions as our leaders for the most part. Right? They can. We love the young souls. Right? How many of them are learning a lot of critical thinking skills? And yet, what are we finding happening in the moment? I am now so angry because of the conditioning of my mindset that says that my victim mindset that was placed upon me by my forefathers has now risen to a point of I can't even reason, it's like the reasoning ability for many is I don't want to be bombed. Yet we have people here who don't understand the nature of making enemies where there are none. It's not about saying the Jewish settlers are bad. Because I'm not going to that place of picking sides. But we do have an honest opinion from their visionary leader, right? Oh, now we've got to tell people, hey, don't hurt people. We'll just lob bombs. But you guys who are out in the streets actually doing the damage to encourage more of those visions of genocide. They're screaming genocide, whether they want to admit to it or not. And that's the nature of many. Okay? It can be said in many ways. We would call it an expression of love, right? That's that lower level understanding of what those visions in those books can do. The eye for the eye kind of stuff. People don't even look at those books for the most part in essence. They're still in the mindset of, I'm being conditioned by either think about it. In this case, it was a band member, coming up with these songs, right? And this is not about degrading of any of those souls. They had a lot of anger and hatred in their hearts. They're now in power. Okay? We didn't get them high enough in their vision of love before we set them upon the throne. Who do you want leading it's like, the same could be said for this country. I did indeed get a message about someone in the House of Representatives who's causing a lot of havoc in her mind. We all know who that one is. She's a beautiful soul who's got a lot of anger in her heart, who's dismayed by how many people are donating to her cause. She rises to the occasion of killing in her mind. I'm not going to state the name. I will just say that that's where others are going in their minds with these people who they claim they are so high and mighty in their visions of justice and the American way. The honoring of her soul is there. Her higher level wisdom would say she's off kilter. She's literally off kilter. It doesn't mean she's not loved. She can't be trusted. her own family is starting to wonder about her vision. And that's the nature of many when they start to see a shift, because in the moment is many things for Brenda. I am not here to dishonor her soul. That's one aspect of her soul. The beautiful, loving soul of that soul would say, I'm not going to dishonor her by telling her that she's off kilter. But in an effort to enlighten the souls to what that would mean, it would mean that others will say she went astray, but she literally bought into the visions of a destroyer who's trying to destroy the vision of what this country actually stands for. Now, that sometimes is what's needed in certain situations, right? We need to lob insults at people in order to wake them up. Is that true? Is that the way that we want to deal with our highest of authorities, right? How many people are supporting people because she speaks for us? She gets those visions of love. And Brenda has those visions for her of, I'm going to send you a book on how to actually state your case that's more in alignment with a loving, respectful, professional way of doing business. We always honor those visions of she's representing the people that elected her. This is what they want. They want the destroyer to come in and to rule the roost, right? Until they realize that she bought into the hypocrisy of her movements. This is not any soul's wisdom that's about being against anybody, but it's that higher vision of which member are we talking about, right? It's the one that's making the headlines today. Now, I heard that yesterday was when I got the name, okay? She's high. She lifts herself. She's so high in her mindset, she feels like she's riding on cloud 9. And yet she is, she's believably, it's like demonic. Some people would say it was a demonic presence. That's another vision of someone who's lobbed that vision at me before. There is no such thing. That's a shadow self. That's all that you would deal with in the moment. So if there's someone who's in the name of God or of a preacher, they often will come through with those visions of evil or demonic or whatnot. She would call me in that vision. I could give her soul session, bring through her family trees, and her whole would be unwound. And she would be in tears most likely because she would realize that she's actually not helping us in this vision of love for all. It's true, but that's the nature of it. So I get to hear from those souls who I don't even necessarily agree with, but I would lift them up in their own vision of who they are. We can do better. We all can. Just like some of my episodes would be considered less than in certain eyes. I'm not here to always go to those highest levels of vision because that's where we just sit and vibrate in who we are and we align with those who agree with what. I'm here to help us, lift us up. Most people, and I'm going to honor the vision of a beautiful soul who's doing his work, but in essence, what I'm saying is the majority of people are not there making the leaps. You would have to take a leap or some life circumstance is usually what happens. But more and more people are hopping on that spiritual mindset and saying that's the way to go. It's not always like that. That's not what soul growth is about. It's not always about just sitting back and watching everybody else do their work. That can be part of it. Okay? What you want to do is you want to say to yourself, whatever feels right for me in this moment is the beauty of who I am. That's the majority of it. When we go to societal level understanding, that's another vision of it. If I take you to a certain soul like I took you to the soul of Biden, people are going to say, oh, well, he's being honored. Her soul's saying, I'm all that and more, and I'm going to kick ass. And yeah, in her mind, sometimes she goes to that vision of, I could kill somebody in my mind. What does that say to you? We're dealing with someone who's not all with it. Right? At some point, people start to understand the strength of soul and what I do. And it's not about trying to, I'm not going to say that, it doesn't mean that the intention is there. How many people have all those, feelings at various, ideas about, what they would do in certain situations or whatnot. We have violent tendencies coming out in many people. And that's the nature of a lot of this, is about we're encouraging the violence instead of trying to be in the mode of peace. And people will say peace doesn't work. And in essence, it's because it wasn't done at a level that was needed for most people. This does not mean we don't take action. It's how we handle the vibration in the moment. I am extremely careful in my moments. That's where some people go, right? I make sure I'm not going to trigger this person. She's off kilter. That's where the guidance is for this lady. She literally has no vision other than of, I'm angry, I'm bitter, I'm justified now for my behavior. I'm getting the support from the United States of America in her mind, who she feels she's lifting up to that better vision of hatred. We have it on both sides. Is it really hatred, or is it I'm the victim? She's playing that victim mindset very beautifully. So then she turns into this aggressor. She's riding that wave of awareness very well. She's the drama triangle embodied, as we all are. Right? Someone hurts my feelings, I lash out. Right? I'm the victim. You hurt me. Her life must be horrible for the amount of anger that she has for so many souls on the other side of the aisle, right? It's a perfect example of how that vision unwinds itself. Most people don't want to be considered a victim in the mindset. That's when they sit back and take notice. You'll unwind the majority of your life when you say, did I actually create this, or was it created for me? Souls will come through and tell you when they put you in a spot that you didn't expect to be in, versus I created everything. Okay, that's not always the case. There's more going on behind the scenes than what people are thinking here. I align with certain souls and I hear from them, and and some of them are beautiful. And I'm still waiting. I know they're there, okay? Family members of other souls that I don't even know in this realm, okay? And that's the strength. I align with certain people. I have a higher level of vision for myself. That's why I don't go to those visions of the hellish realms. I don't create with that in my mind. To me, I'm like, that's a shadow thing that lets me know I need to go on into my own heart, figure out what it is that I'm dealing with, why I kind of want to be in that position. Sometimes we like being the victim. Sometimes we like feeling like the victim, because then we can get it out. And that's us going to that higher level of understanding. And sometimes when we realize it and say, oh, I'm just being a victim in my mind, versus the actual victims who are experiencing some kind of, emotional trauma, physical trauma, from something. But even if that happens, at some point you say, let me lift myself out of the memory of a victim and let me move on forward in my life. Just like we can do as a country. Stop holding on to the hatred from past. We did that with Japan. Are we going to start doing that vision again? Right? We can keep doing that. We say, let's move on. The problem is that there are too many people that want to still hang on to those hurts or those pains. And you say, I don't need to be lectured. So most people say, I don't want to be lectured. It's not about a lecture. It's about an honest understanding of how do we lift ourselves out. Not just as a single person. That's easy to do. I can go sit somewhere, vibrate in my beauty. You go to relationships, you go to politics. This is affecting everybody, correct? Most people say, oh, you just stay out of it. Baloney. I go head first into it and I say, let me figure out what's going on and then I'll bring it to you. That's the nature of it because that's where most people are. That's where the growth's going to happen in the next 10 to 20 years. You can either say, I bow out gracefully, or you can say, I'm going to participate. I'm not going to cause any issues, but I will actually be part of that solution. Okay? It doesn't mean there's one right side. That's not what we're saying. It's not like that. But that idea that we're a global vision, that's beautiful. What we can't say is that our politics are only for us here. This is why I'm going to start going to the international realms. It starts to get hard for me sometimes because I did hear about all this stuff in France. Okay, and yeah, there's a lot of those issues around race, gender. Those are the struggles of the world and of soul. You see, we always think we know who we are until we don't. And that's usually what happens, is that we vibrate in the beauty of who we are and we say we love all souls. And then people will start to say, oh, I get it. I get it. You just want to help yourself. So a lot of people will put a boundary around their heart and say, I don't want to let anybody in. That's what we often do when we're in that mode of protection, right? I open my heart up and I say, if I've got an issue, it'll come to me, I'll see it, and I'll try to heal it. It's not about shutting ourselves off from the world or our families or our friends. We may have to do work with individuals or whatnot. There's a lot of stuff that can happen on a soul level that may point you in a different direction depending on what's going on. We're not going to encourage anyone to stay in any life-threatening situation. We're not going to encourage anyone to stay in any visions of abuse. That would be qualified by their soul only. It's not for me to determine what that is or isn't for them. So there is not a one-size-fits-all when it comes to guidance, just like it's not always obvious what kind of soul vision I have. Like others will say, well, what level are you at? It's not about trying to be any certain level. Okay, I can traverse the realms. I could go to my beauty and just hang out and be beautiful and bring through those beautiful words of wisdom. Or we can get to the nitty-gritty of work. Okay? Because what happens is usually a lot of the people that go to that vision of spiritual enlightenment, either they sit in it and they vibrate in it, or they then say, I came back down to earth. The reality of the situation is that the majority of people will either start to break free of who you are because they'll think that you're very weird, or they will see the beauty of who you are, and then they will say, okay, that's enough for me. We're not here to serve all. That's what a lot of that vision is, because if you can do that vision where you can honor not just where we were in the past, because it's all there, But where do we want to go in the future? So it's not about trying to demonize people. And that's the problem with certain faiths, is they try to paint people as somehow evil and going to a place that they can't free themselves from. And that's not the place you want to create from. You may create that vision for other hearts, not realizing that your own mind has that vibration attached to it. That's why most people in the science and technology realm don't vibrate in that vision of it as of yet. Okay, that's what most people say. Oh, just wait till you get to the other side. Visit those realms. Don't stay long. And you see the beauty of what you create here. So I already know certain people place that vision on me. And so I honor their visions as conditioning of their minds. That's all. They were taught that. And if they experienced it, it's usually because they were taught that. I never experienced anything like that because I didn't grow up with it. I didn't create it, and I don't have to experience certain things. And once you do the soul embodiment vision, you don't have to create hell for anybody else either. You say, let's lift ourselves up. That's all. See, I'm not trying to reinforce like something is less than either. They're all beautiful expressions. They had their purpose. We're here to scare people to behave. That's what that is. We want people to behave. Let's not create havoc. Let's not create havoc. It's okay if you need it to ease your burdens and say, I can't deal with this vision or this issue or whatever, and let me just place that vision of another. That's the separation of you and that other soul. So by sending that other soul to that place in your mind, you yourself would be sending yourself there. Because at those highest levels of vision, we're all united in one beautiful vision of love. How's that for love? So with that, I'm going to end the session. It was a mixed bag again of visions, but that's how my life runs. You know, I literally am out for a walk or jog or something, and I hear different visions coming to me from different levels of the hierarchy is still in place, yes, in some people's minds. Just wait. Just wait. It all unfolds in beauty. And that's all we need to know. So take care and have an amazing day.